It was a cold spring morning in 2011, deep in the Ural mountains of central Russia. Alexander Shestakov sat at his desk in the Zjuratkul National Park ranger station. He was scanning over a digital map, checking routes, noting where the snow had melted enough for trails to reopen. This morning, his attention was on the slopes of Zjuratkul Ridge, which was still largely covered in snow. But one clearing, partially exposed, immediately caught his attention. He noticed that the vegetation on the clearing appeared uneven. Zooming in further, the irregular patches began to form a clear shape, nearly 950 feet across. He could make out a long muzzle, antlers, 4 legs, and a body. It was a giant figure of a moose, sitting in the middle of a mountain forest 1,000 miles deep into the Russian wilderness. On that morning, on a computer screen in a quiet office, the so-called Zuratkul Moose had been rediscovered, what was thought to be both the oldest and largest hill figures ever discovered in the world, kickstarting one of the strangest investigations in the annals of archaeology. To put that into perspective, the largest hill figure in the UK is the Kilburn White Horse in North Yorkshire, which is just shy of 300 feet across, so 2/3 smaller. This is around the same size as the largest geoglyph of the Nazca Lines in Peru. I know from personal experience that something as large as the Kilburn White Horse can be seen from over 20 miles away. So imagine an animal carving over 3 times larger than that. Shestakov's discovery had reached local authorities within weeks. By the summer of 2011, the site above Zjuratkul Ridge had become the focus of official archaeological interest and reported as the Russian Geoglyph internationally. A geoglyph, by the way, is a large design created on the ground to be viewed from above. An expedition was organised under Dr. Stanislav Arkadovich Grigoriev, senior researcher at the South Ural branch of the Institute of History and Archaeology. He was joined by Nikolai Menshenin of the State Centre for Monument Protection. Their stated aim was to determine whether the outline visible on satellite imagery corresponded to a built structure on the ground, what is known as ground truthing. In typical Russian fashion, the team began with a paraglider survey, confirming that the shape did indeed extend roughly 950 feet diagonally across the slope. The figure was found to not be a single continuous line, but rather a broad band, around 5 meters wide, partially obscured by vegetation. In August of 2011, the first excavation trenches were opened. Beneath 40 to 50 centimeters of earth lay a consistent layer of stone, large blocks on the outer edges with smaller stones filling the center, forming a deliberate pattern on the slope. By the end of the season, 155 worked stone objects had been recorded. Many showed edgeware typical of earth-moving tools, like shovels. Grigoriev noted that several were small enough to fit into a child's hand, a detail that he interpreted as evidence for communal labour. Most astonishingly of all, based on the tools and stratigraphy, the feature was dated to the Neolithic, or Eneolithic periods, around 4000 BC. A radiocarbon date taken from the soil returned a date range between 3655 BC and 3515 BC. News reports and archaeologists were fast to make a connection to nearby Neolithic sites. The region surrounding Zjuratkul Ridge contained a high density of megalithic monuments, notably more than 200 dolmens, a style of prehistoric burial chamber, many within a few kilometres of the geoglyph site. These small stone structures date to around the same time range as the excavations had predicted, and so were obviously connected in some way, suggesting that it could form part of a pretty much unknown but massive prehistoric ritual landscape in the southern Ural Mountains. Accordingly, the crackpots wheeled out their star maps and solstice charts and got to drawing lines all over photos of it, which always makes me laugh because you can just draw lines on anything. The following year, in the spring, Grigoriev and Menshenin published their initial findings in the journal Antiquity, presenting the Zyuratkul Moose as the oldest known geoglyph in the world, a figure potentially older than the Nazca Lines of Peru by thousands of years. The publication obviously attracted immediate international interest. By late 2012, the geoglyph had been included in the Zjuratkul National Park Forest Development Plan. A 3-year programme spanning between 2012 and 2014 was drawn up for its protection, further excavation, and adaptation for controlled tourism, which was already rampant thanks to the numerous YouTube videos promoting its mystery. The planning documents referred to the feature as an archaeological monument of substantial international significance. Obviously, the chance discovery of the world's oldest and largest hill figure is going to raise some eyebrows, and attracted what we in the archaeological community call haters. No, actually, that's the rap community, of which I'm not a member. However, in the case of the Zjuratkul Moose, I am sad to report that there are some significant holes in its story. Have a look, for instance, at this satellite imagery of the moose in the year 2010. The image that the majority of news articles used to show the thing. Looks pretty mysterious and ancient. Now, let's turn the clock back only 3 years to 2007. Do you notice anything? Well, if you have eyes and a brain in your head, you should, because clearly this supposedly prehistoric site appears to have become almost entirely buried in only 3 years. Surely, if it was from the Stone Age, it would already have been covered by 2007. This would suggest that the thing was practically new when this image was taken. You may also notice this little trail heading off over here, sort of ruining the moose's shape. Well, if we follow that down to its endpoint, we can see that it meets the track. Oh dear. Well, this is strange because it almost meets the track here as well, but it doesn't quite touch, and at this point, it clearly crosses past the track. Nevertheless, the thing clearly sits on a modern track. Why would something from between 6000 and 3000 BC be associated with a modern track? Well, obviously something's amiss here. While the newspapers and journalists across Russia were busy shouting to the world about this fantastic prehistoric discovery, the students of Satka Children's and Youth Sports School were beginning to sweat, because apparently between 2003 and 2010, just 1 year prior to the thing's discovery, the club had been using the hill for ski practice and had designed a route 3 kilometers long where students could walk along with ski poles to mimic the ascents and descents while skiing. This was for summer use, but the coach, V.G. Kamardin, had intentionally marked the route with stone slabs to ensure it wouldn't be lost under snow in the winter, and could be used year on year. Each summer, he would mow the long grass to make it visible to the students, which, if you look at this, yeah, that looks about right.
But wait a minute, surely this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I've just explained to you that Grigoriev, this renowned archaeologist and his team, went up to that mountain, they dug 50 centimetres below the ground surface, and they found this moose, formed of megalithic stones and packed rubble. They found it. On top of that, look at this stone. How is that moved by a ski instructor? It's a megalithic stone. If you're just paving a little trail for some skiers, kids, in fact, why would you go and make it out of megaliths? Now, I don't know the full facts on this, and I don't think anyone does really, but I think the devil is in the details. Because the ski instructor said he'd mowed the grass. In an area where they have a lot of snow, if you mow the grass in late summer and then it snows over, that grass is going to stay, nice and short all throughout the winter. And then when it thaws, as it was when Shestakov found the thing, it's going to remain nice and low. You're going to see it on the ground surface. Therefore, I don't think the stones have anything to do with it. I just think it's some mowed grass, which is why, if you look at the satellite today, it's not there at all. It's completely disappeared. The stones, therefore, are just a natural scatter of boulders, just under the ground surface as you'd find them naturally. There are, of course, all those tools that were found, but I don't think I put much stock in those. That, for instance, I mean, what is that? Earth moving tool? Come on. That's just a rock. It could also be that those tools are real, but they just sit on a hillside where there's a ski trail. It could be anything. I also have to say about Grigoriev that some questions have been raised about his methods elsewhere. He has claimed that there are a number of standing stones in the surrounding area that have later been identified as boulders, just natural boulders. I don't want to cast aspersions, I don't know the full details on that, but just let it be known that this team has been accused of identifying natural features as archaeological several times in the past.
They argued that the modern ski trail simply sat on top or near a real archaeological feature. What a coincidence. Not to mention, this is not how real archaeology works. You need cultural layers, evidence of human activity. You can't just radiocarbon date the soil and call it a day. Then again, look at these excavation photos. There is a significant layer of soil on top of the stones. Surely there's no way that this amount of earth fell onto the geoglyph in only 1 year of disuse. So, I'm assuming this is shoddy archaeology somewhere along the way. When science and archaeology interact in ways just like this, we can end up falling for stories that on the surface appear based in evidence and science, but right down to their core, just stink. Let this be a lesson that not everything you hear about archaeology in the news can be completely trusted. I've been Adam Morgan-Ibbotson, and I hope you've all enjoyed this little trip to Russia.
I want to thank my members at the end of this video. For the first time ever, because I've opened up memberships, you can now join and see more, get exclusive content, all that good stuff, get a shout out at the end of the video. I want to thank them because I had way more members join than I could ever have imagined. I think I'm nearly up to 20 already. So that means I get money, but I could do with a bit more. So if you want to join memberships, this is a reminder that you can do so by clicking the join button somewhere down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I've really enjoyed making this one. So share it far and wide. I love you all. Goodbye.